The first city on Mars, cold open. Imagine standing on a launch pad in Texas at 3 a.m., feeling the ground tremble beneath your boots before you even hear the engines ignite. 20 stories of stainless steel are about to leave Earth, carrying not astronauts, not cargo, but the opening move in humanity's attempt to become a two-planet species. In seconds, 33 engines will ignite beneath you, generating more thrust than the Saturn V that took us to the moon. This is Starship, and it might be the last chance we get to leave this planet before something else decides for us. For a moment, it's beautiful. Fire blooms silently in the dark. Then the sound arrives, a wall of noise that hits your chest before your ears. The rocket rises, slow at first, impossibly slow for something so massive, then faster, tearing a hole through the clouds. But something is wrong. This isn't a straightforward liftoff to orbit and back. This ship isn't returning. If everything goes according to Elon Musk's plan, this vehicle, or one just like it, will spend the next 7 to 9 months in the crushing silence of interplanetary space, aiming for a small red dot 90 million miles away. And there is no guarantee it survives the journey. There is no guarantee anything on this mission survives at all. Section 1. The scale of the problem. Here's what most people don't understand about going to Mars. It isn't like going to the moon. The moon is 3 days away. You can see it. You can abort. You can turn around. Mars is different. Once you commit, you're committed for the better part of a year. There is no rescue mission. There is no Coast Guard of the solar system. If something breaks 2 months into the trip, you'll fix it yourself with what you brought, or you'll die in a metal tube drifting through the dark, further from another human being than anyone in history has ever been. SpaceX's plan is to start launching uncrewed starships to Mars first, to test whether the vehicle can even land intact before risking a single human life. That's not caution for caution's sake. That's because the physics of landing on Mars are almost designed to kill you. Space.com. Bet! Here's the problem. Mars doesn't play by Earth's rules. Thick enough to create punishing heat during entry. Thin enough that it barely slows you down. Every landing method that works on Earth becomes a liability. Parachute alone can't do the job. You need engines to fire at exactly the right second, at exactly the right angle. Or, the vehicle doesn't land, it becomes the crater. Section 2. The fuel problem no one talks about, and it gets worse. Starship can't even leave Earth's orbit with a full tank. To reach Mars, it needs to be refueled in space by another Starship acting as a tanker, docking at thousands of miles per hour, transferring supercooled propellant between two, by anyone, ever. Experts studying the mission have pointed out that each Starship bound for Mars may need at least 4 separate refueling flights. Just to have enough fuel for the journey, that means before a single ship leaves for Mars, SpaceX has to execute a flawless sequence of high-speed orbital ballet. Any single failure, any docking error, any leak, and the mission is scrubbed. Or worse, AON. This is where things change, because Mars and Earth don't line up whenever we want them to. The two planets align for an efficient transfer only once every 26 months. A slim, unforgiving window. Miss it, and you don't try again next month. You wait 2 full years. Every mistake costs time, measured not in days, but in orbital seasons. Elon Musk's target has been to launch as many as 8 uncrewed starships toward Mars during the November 2026 transfer window, a swarm of vehicles thrown at the red planet simultaneously. Betting that some will make it, testing engines, heat shields, and landing systems all at once, because there's no other way to gather this data. You don't get partial credit for almost surviving atmospheric entry. AOL Section 3. Who or WHAT goes first? Here's the detail that should unsettle you. The first ships to Mars won't carry astronauts. They'll carry robots. SpaceX plans for the first uncrewed flight to carry a simulated crew, 1 or more Tesla-built Optimus, humanoid robots standing in for the humans who aren't ready to go yet. Think about what that means. We are sending human-shaped machines to die in our place, to test whether the ground itself can be trusted to hold a human body without crushing it, freezing it, or burying it in the toxic red dust that coats every surface of that planet. AOL But that's not even the worst part. Even if the landing succeeds, even if the ship survives entry, survives the burn, survives the touchdown, nothing about Mars is finished trying to kill you. Section 4. The planet itself is the enemy step. Outside, without a suit on Mars, and you have seconds, not minutes, before your blood begins to boil beneath your skin. The same brutal physics of decompression that kills in the vacuum of open space. The atmosphere is too thin to breathe, too thin to protect you from the sun's radiation, and made almost entirely of carbon dioxide. There is no ozone layer. There is no magnetic field strong enough to deflect the storm of charged particles constantly raining down from space. Every day on the Martian surface is a day of radiation exposure that would be considered a medical emergency on Earth. And it gets worse. Temperatures on Mars can swing from a relatively mild 70 degrees Fahrenheit at noon near the equator to nearly minus 190 degrees Fahrenheit at night near the poles. A 150-degree drop between lunch and dinner. Metal contracts. Seals. Crack. Equipment that worked perfectly an hour ago can fail catastrophically once the sun goes down. Because nothing on Earth is designed to survive that kind of violence, that fast, every single day, forever. Then there's the dust, not sand. Dust, fine enough to work its way into every seal, every joint, every solar panel, grinding machinery down from the inside. Mars occasionally produces planet-wide dust storms that can block out the sun for weeks, starving solar-powered equipment of the one thing it needs to survive. NASA's own rovers have nearly died this way, swallowed by storms so vast they turned the entire planet the color of rust. Visible from Earth through backyard telescopes. Section 5. Where do you even build a city? So where? In this hostile, radiation-soaked, freezing, dust-choked wasteland, do you put the first city? SpaceX has reportedly zeroed in on Arcadia Planitia, a volcanic plain in Mars's northern hemisphere, as a leading candidate chosen not because it's beautiful, but because it might be survivable. Subsurface water, ice lies just centimeters below the surface there, the terrain is flat enough to land on safely, and the mid-latitude sun exposure is strong enough to actually power the colony. Future science water ice. Sounds like good news. It is, and it isn't. That ice is the only realistic source of drinking water, oxygen, and rocket fuel for a return trip home. Without it, nothing about a permanent settlement works. But mining it means digging into permafrost in an environment where a single torn suit, a single depressurized habitat, a single failed seal means death within minutes. And this is where things change. Because everything about surviving on Mars depends on machines. Nobody has ever tested their drilling equipment. Atmospheric processors that pull carbon dioxide from the air and convert it into breathable oxygen, and habitats built to withstand pressure differentials no structure on Earth has ever had to endure for years at a time. Not ours. Section 6. The timeline and why IT keeps slipping. Here's the uncomfortable truth about all of this. SpaceX has already launched 11 Starship test flights as of October 2025, and the vehicle has exploded, tumbled, and failed in ways both spectacular and mundane. Even Musk himself has admitted the odds of hitting the 2026 Mars launch window are close to 50-50. AOLspace.com, but it gets worse, because Musk's Mars timeline has moved before, and it will likely move again. Earlier plans spoke of an uncrewed landing within 5 years and a crewed mission within 7 timelines that shifted before they were ever tested. At one point, SpaceX reportedly told investors it would prioritize returning to the moon first, delaying the uncrewed Mars landing entirely, before Musk publicly recommitted to the 2026 window with robots standing in for a human crew. Trading v. SpaceX Wiki. This is not incompetence. This is honesty about how brutally difficult the problem actually is. You are trying to land a vehicle the size of a skyscraper, intact, on a planet with almost no atmosphere to slow it down, using fuel that had to be transferred between 2 spacecraft traveling at orbital velocity, aiming for a location chosen based on ice deposits detected from millions of miles away by a satellite, and even if every single piece of that chain works, Musk's own roadmap doesn't put crewed landings until 2029, possibly slipping to 2031. That's years away. That's an entire additional Mars transfer window. Maybe 2. Standing between the robots landing safely and the first human footprint on that red soil. Future. All of this, the fuel, the heat shields, the landing sequences, the habitats assumes we understand everything Mars can throw at us. We don't. We don't fully know the long-term effects of Martian dust on human lungs if a seal fails slowly instead of catastrophically. We don't know what months of reduced gravity, just 38% of Earth's does to a human body attempting to build and maintain a colony under physical strain, day after day, year after year, with no way home. We don't know what isolation that extreme does to the human mind. We cut off not just from family, but from the entire species, from the blue marble that raised every one of us, reduced to a point of light in the Martian sky. Every Apollo astronaut who walked on the moon could see Earth, whole and close, hanging in the black. The first humans on Mars will look up and see almost nothing. Just a star, just a memory of home, 90 million miles away, getting smaller. Section 8. The stakes. Why Musk is doing this at all. So why risk it? Why spend billions of dollars? Why bet a company's future? Why send robots to die alone on a frozen desert planet just to prove the ground won't collapse under them? Musk's own words frame it darkly. Being multi-planetary would vastly increase the probable lifespan of consciousness itself, because right now, every human mind, every idea, every piece of knowledge we've ever produced exists on a single planet, vulnerable to a single catastrophe. One asteroid, one supervolcano, one mistake, with a weapon powerful enough to end it all. Spinning rock. Space.com. The goal isn't just to visit Mars. It's to build a self-sustaining city there within roughly 20 years, a place that could survive and continue, even if Earth couldn't. Not a flag and footprints mission like Apollo. A civilization. Farms under domes. Children born on another world who will never know what it feels like to breathe unfiltered air. Who will look up at a sky the color of rust and call it home. Space.com. Final section. The philosophical weight. Stand back for a second and look at what this actually is. A species that evolved to survive on the plains of one continent, on one planet, in one thin sliver of breathable atmosphere, is now trying to leap across 90 million miles of vacuum to build a permanent home on a world that will kill an unprotected human being in under 2 minutes. Every rocket that leaves that launch pad in Texas carries the same question with it. Are we running towards something or away from something? Are we expanding what it means to be human, or are we quietly admitting that the planet that made us might not be safe enough to keep us forever? Mars was never going to be easy. It was never going to welcome us with open arms, with breathable air, with forgiving temperatures. It offers none of that. What it offers is a chance, a slim, dangerous, unproven chance that the story of humanity doesn't have to end where it began. The universe was never built for us. But maybe, for the first time in 4 billion years of life on Earth, we're building a way to survive it anyway.